Imagine a city frozen in time, a place where the hands of the clock stopped moving and life as it was known came to an abrupt halt. Empty streets stretch into the distance, lined with buildings that stand eerily silent. This is Pripyat, Ukraine, a city that once thrived with life and energy. Once a bustling city of 50,000 residents, it now stands as a chilling monument to disaster. Children played in the parks, families dined in restaurants, and the streets were filled with the sounds of daily life. What catastrophic event could force an entire city to be abandoned overnight? The answer lies in a tragedy that unfolded just a few kilometers away. The remains of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant tell the story. This once mighty facility became the epicenter of a disaster that changed the world. On April 26, 1986, Reactor number 4 became the site of the world's worst nuclear accident. The explosion was catastrophic, and the subsequent fire only made things worse. The explosion and subsequent fire released a massive plume of radioactive material into the atmosphere. This deadly cloud spread far and wide, carried by the winds. This invisible enemy spread across Europe and beyond, leaving a legacy of fear and uncertainty in its wake. The once vibrant city of Pripyat became a ghost town, a haunting reminder of the fragility of human life and the power of nature. The Chernobyl disaster was not simply a random accident. It was the culmination of a series of design flaws, human errors, and a culture of secrecy. The reactor design itself, known as the RBMK-1000, was inherently flawed. It lacked a robust containment structure, a critical safety feature common in Western reactors. This meant that in the event of a meltdown, radioactive material could escape directly into the environment. Adding to the danger, a series of operational errors and safety violations occurred in the hours leading up to the explosion. These mistakes, coupled with the reactor's inherent flaws, created a perfect storm for disaster. In the early hours of April 26, 1986, a routine safety test was underway at Chernobyl's reactor number 4. The test was intended to simulate a power failure and assess the reactor's emergency cooling systems. However, due to a combination of design flaws and operator errors, the test went horribly wrong. A sudden power surge caused the reactor's core to overheat uncontrollably. The intense heat caused a steam explosion, blowing the reactor's heavy lid off. This exposed the reactor core to the open air, igniting a graphite fire that raged for days. The fire released a massive plume of radioactive material into the atmosphere, contaminating the surrounding area and beyond. The immediate aftermath of the Chernobyl explosion was chaos and confusion. The explosion had ripped through Reactor 4, sending a plume of radioactive material into the night sky. The plant workers and first responders were thrown into a situation they were completely unprepared for. Firefighters, unaware of the invisible danger they faced, rushed to extinguish the blaze. They battled the flames with determination, not knowing that the smoke they inhaled was filled with deadly radiation. Their bravery was unquestionable, but the cost was unimaginable. Many received lethal doses of radiation. The effects were swift and brutal, with symptoms of acute radiation sickness appearing within hours. These heroes paid the ultimate price for their courage. The nearby city of Pripyat, home to many plant workers and their families, was initially told to remain calm. Life continued as usual, with children playing outside and families going about their daily routines, unaware of the invisible threat looming over them. It was not until 36 hours after the explosion that the evacuation of Pripyat began. Buses lined the streets as residents hurriedly packed a few belongings, believing they would return soon. The sense of urgency was palpable, yet the full gravity of the situation was still not understood. Residents were told they would be able to return in a few days. They left with the hope that their displacement was temporary, not realizing that they would never see their homes again. The evacuation was orderly but heart-wrenching, as families left behind their lives and memories. They left behind their homes, their possessions, and their lives as they knew them. The streets of Pripyat, once filled with the sounds of daily life, fell silent. The city became a ghost town, frozen in time, a stark reminder of the disaster. The true extent of the disaster was slowly becoming clear. Radiation levels were dangerously high, and the long-term impact on health and the environment was still unknown. The scale of the catastrophe was unprecedented. The world watched in horror as the invisible threat of radiation spread. News of the disaster traveled quickly, sparking international concern and fear. The Chernobyl explosion was not just a local tragedy, it was a global wake-up call about the dangers of nuclear power. The Chernobyl disaster had a devastating impact on human health. While the official death toll remains a subject of debate, thousands of people were exposed to high levels of radiation. The immediate effects included radiation sickness, burns, and an increased risk of cancer. In the years since the disaster, there has been a significant increase in thyroid cancer cases, particularly among children. The long-term effects of radiation exposure are still being studied. The psychological impact of the disaster is also profound. The trauma of evacuation, the loss of loved ones, and the fear of invisible contamination have left lasting scars on survivors. Section 6. Nature reclaims its own. The Chernobyl exclusion zone today. 30 years after the disaster, the Chernobyl exclusion zone remains a haunting reminder of the devastating power of nuclear energy. The area immediately surrounding the power plant is still highly contaminated. However, in the absence of human activity, nature has slowly begun to reclaim the land. Forests have regrown and wildlife has returned, including species rare or absent before the disaster. The Chernobyl exclusion zone stands as a stark example of both the destructive and resilient nature of our planet. Section 7. Learning from tragedy: nuclear safety in a post-Chernobyl world. The Chernobyl disaster sent shockwaves throughout the world, forcing a reassessment of nuclear safety protocols and regulations. The International Atomic Energy Agency, or IEA, strengthened international safety standards. New reactor designs incorporated enhanced safety features. The focus shifted towards preventing similar accidents from ever happening again. The lessons learned from Chernobyl have been applied to nuclear power plants worldwide, making them significantly safer than their predecessors. However, as long as nuclear power remains a source of energy, the risk of accidents can never be completely eliminated. Section 8. A double-edged sword. The promise and peril of nuclear power. Nuclear power presents a paradox. It is a source of both immense energy and immense risk. On one hand, nuclear power offers a low-carbon alternative to fossil fuels, a crucial factor in the fight against climate change. On the other hand, the potential consequences of a nuclear accident are catastrophic. The legacy of Chernobyl serves as a constant reminder of the devastating impact nuclear disasters can have on human health, the environment, and the global community. The question remains, can we harness the power of the atom safely, or will it ultimately become our undoing? Section 9. Our nuclear future, a call for vigilance and responsibility. As we venture further into the 21st century, the debate surrounding nuclear power continues. The promise of nuclear energy is undeniable. It offers a potent solution to our growing energy needs, providing a significant amount of power with a relatively small environmental footprint compared to fossil fuels. The need for clean energy sources is more urgent than ever. Climate change is accelerating, and the world is in desperate need of sustainable solutions. Renewable energy sources like solar, wind, and hydroelectric power are crucial, but they alone may not be sufficient to meet the global demand. However, the specter of Chernobyl looms large, reminding us of the potential consequences of complacency. The disaster that unfolded in 1986 serves as a stark reminder of the catastrophic risks associated with nuclear power when safety protocols are not rigorously followed. The future of nuclear power hinges on our ability to learn from the mistakes of the past. We must not only remember the lessons of Chernobyl, but also apply them to prevent future tragedies. This involves continuous improvement in safety measures and emergency preparedness. We must demand the highest safety standards, invest in cutting-edge technology, and ensure that our nuclear facilities are equipped with the latest advancements in safety and efficiency. This includes regular inspections, rigorous testing, and the implementation of fail-safe mechanisms, and promote a culture of transparency and accountability within the nuclear industry. Open communication and public engagement are essential to build trust and ensure that the industry operates with the highest ethical standards. The atom holds within it both the promise of progress and the threat of destruction. It is a dual-edged sword that requires careful handling and respect. The potential for innovation and advancement is immense, but so too is the potential for harm if mismanaged. It is our responsibility to ensure that the legacy of Chernobyl serves not only as a cautionary tale but also as a catalyst for a safer, more sustainable future. By embracing vigilance and responsibility, we can harness the power of the atom for the benefit of all humanity, ensuring that such a disaster never happens again.